All Blacks in Uruguay, folks. Rugby World Cup 2023, Pool A. All Blacks did the job and then some in that second half. Uruguay gave them a good game in the first half, but I feel like they're going to be pretty frustrated with how many errors they made. And yeah, man, the All Blacks in the second half, it was just absolutely one-sided contest. We'll go through some key events and stats, and you guys can listen to your thoughts on the game. Great crowd, seemingly pretty behind Uruguay, which makes sense. They've been really behind the underdogs in these games. They had them belting out Uruguay, and the French fans belting out Lomax when the All Blacks had some periods of pressure, at least in the first half. But yeah, the second half, as I said, was it was pretty one-sided, so there wasn't that much to kind of get behind about from an Uruguayan perspective. Uruguay, though, did have lots of possession early. They didn't do anything at the haka. There was talk that they were going to do something kind of different at the haka, but it was just a standard, nothing to see here thing. But they had lots of possession early, but to be honest, New Zealand's defence looked pretty comfortable. They didn't look like being broken down early, and the first line break of the game was Will Jordan. Jacobson ended up getting pinged for a neck roll, which allowed Uruguay and kind of easy exit. The TMO was pretty sharp on the old neck rolls in this one, but no score pretty early. It did look like the first try had been scored on 7 minutes from turnover ball. Roigard looked to have scored, but there was clear separation, so a kind of knock on in the final scoring of the ball. The Uruguayan hand comes, it just knocks it free of Roigard's hands, so that try is chalked off. And then Uruguay looked to have scored the first try in 12 minutes through Ardao out on the left wing, the turnover merchant, after a big line break down the right, but then ALB with the try-saving tackle gets him with a foot and touch. And then DMAC looks to have scored the first try, but that one was TMO'd for a Mo'unga neck roll right in the build-up as the Uruguayan guys were trying to turn the ball over. So 3 tries, all TMO'd. Nobody could get the first score. I did have a brief look on social media, which is probably a mistake, and I saw people whinging and moaning about bloody TMOs killing the game, but like, isn't a knock-on in the tackle and a foot and touch exactly what the TMO is there for? Isn't that was pretty quick? They didn't muck around. I thought that was fine. I don't know. If someone puts their foot and touch right before they score a try, or knock it on in the process of scoring a try, that's the kind of howler you don't want to see given a try. But anyway, the New Zealand commentary team weren't sure there was separation for the Roigard one. But anyway, no scoring either way. But concerningly for the All Blacks, Tyrel Lomax goes off after about 10 minutes. So that is a big concern. He looked pretty miserable, which, based on his reaction, does not seem great. But we'll have to wait and see what the prognosis is for him. The first try, though, did come on about 20 minutes. Damian McKenzie was able to get the first of his 2. That was from a penalty in front from the Uruguayan guys not rolling at the tackle. That was a little bit of one they were guilty of a wee bit. So often the jackler would get over the ball, but it was the preceding tackler who wasn't rolling away that was getting pinged. So New Zealand opted for the scrum, 5 metres out, and it was Roigard to Mo'unga to DMAC able to go over. So well worked try, 7-0. And then when Uruguay would get the ball, man, they would just knock it on. It was really quite frustrating because it's only 7-0. I didn't think they were going to win the game. As I said, I didn't think they, apart from that disallowed try, looked like scoring that often. But if they'd been able to hang on to the pill a bit more, maybe they would have been able to get some points on the board. They knocked it on when they had ball in New Zealand territory. They had a knockout after a line out in New Zealand territory. Then they knocked it on in their own 22. That was Echeverry. Echeverry knocked it on after a big New Zealand kick through, and that led to a 5-metre scrum. That led to advantage because the scrum was powered up from a New Zealand perspective. They were dominant, bossing the same with the Italy game last week. They were bossing scrum time, and then Mo'unga just glided over from a Jordie Barrett pass out the back. So 14-0. I mean, New Zealand were offside a minute later, so it gave Uruguay a chance. Uruguay went for touch, so good on them for not just taking the 3-pointer. 5 metres out, New Zealand didn't jump. The maul was going nowhere. New Zealand offside again. They went for touch again. Then they had some blindside move. It was pretty ambitious, but it went into touch. But there was a New Zealand knock-on in the build-up anyway. They went for a scrum, but then lost the ball again. So pretty frustrating. But then that frustration from a New Zealand perspective, like I'm happy from a New Zealand perspective that we're defending so well. But the frustration at the skills not quite being there were absolutely put on their head when when D-Mac managed to keep that ball in, when he'd put a kick through, and it was going out for all money, but he manages to keep it in, and one-handed passes it before his foot goes into touch to Will Jordan, who's able to go over. And the crowd booed it, which I found a bit annoying. Like, it's all well and good for me to sit here liking the underdogs getting the support, except when it's against my team. And that was a thing of beauty. Were they booing because they thought his foot was in touch, or they thought the pass was forward? It looked fine to me. I don't know. It looked like an absolute piece of rugby magic. 21-0. New Zealand conceded a penalty after the restart, which is not something you can do against teams who punish you, but Echeverry kicked the ball dead. This is what I'm talking about. Like, Uruguay in that first half, frustrating in how many errors they made. Uncharacteristic. New Zealand had a scrum in Uruguay's 22. Roigard gets the bonus point try before halftime, so it's 26-0 at halftime. 26-0, you're on the path to conceding 50-odd, but New Zealand scores 70 because the second half is an absolute rout. I mean, the first half stats, run meters 433 to 177, clean breaks 7-2, but turnovers conceded. Uruguay's had less ball, but conceded 13 turnovers to 9. Not great. The line-out from New Zealand is 3 from 3, 7 from 9 for Uruguay. And their tackling percentage, Uruguay is 77%, which is low. New Zealand is at 90. And then, man, second half, it just, what do you say? Like, I mean, Leicester Fainga'anuku scores a second half hat-trick. He's genuinely got the skills to be a big power winger, and he can also act like a loose forward at times where he can just kind of pick and go. Fletcher Newell showed a bit of footwork, but he goes off injured at the end of the second half, so that's a bit concerning that we had 2 props down in this game, but Newell showed some great footwork to get his first test try. Tamaiti Williams got his first test try. D-Mac got a second half try. Will Jordan got a second half try. The wingers often were kind of linking up because they ended up shifting Leicester to the midfield, D-Mac to 10. They shifted around the back line a fair bit, so a lot of people got chances to play in different positions. The scrum was looking powerful. Largely, basically, when New Zealand were able to go through the phases, they inevitably pretty much ended up scoring. Uruguay kept playing. Like, they were trying to run the thing right at the death, but ended up knocking it on, which is pretty fitting because, they'd been knocking it on all day. So very little ball in the second half. Like as I said, New Zealand set play, they got set piece try from scrum time. They got like pick and go tries from close range. They scored a bunch of variety of ways, and she was pretty lopsided in the second half. I mean, possession finishes 64-36, but second half it's 75% possession All Blacks. So they just had all the ball. There wasn't that much to talk about in terms of things going the other way. Run meters finished 833 to 248. Clean breaks 14-3. Defenders beaten 45-11. New Zealand's line out 7 from 7. They didn't maul it that much, only twice, which is surprising because often Tier 1 teams like to brutalise teams at the maul, but New Zealand were keen to chuck it around a bit more. Line outs from Uruguay 8 from 12, so a few too many missed. Turnovers conceded. Uruguay had more, 18 to 16, despite having only 36% of the possession. So you would think the team which has more ball loses more ball. But no, that's what I'm talking about. Uruguay being very frustrating like that. They played, like first half, sometimes they were, first 20 minutes, I think they were on form, barring their handling. But yeah, I do feel like Uruguay is a better team than 73-0, but man, the All Blacks are a good side too. Tackles, they had to make 193 to 90. I mean, they got beaten by less than what Italy got beaten by, I suppose. They certainly conceded fewer points, but they didn't score any. D-Mac, 2 tries and assists, 105 metres, beats 4 defenders. Sam Cane gets through the game, which is good news for him. Top tackler with 9 from 9, at least top tackling from a New Zealand perspective. Leicester Fainga'anuku, 9 defenders beaten, 3 clean breaks, 184 metres. Goodness me. And they were focusing on Roigard's passing in this week. I thought he passed it pretty well. There was one where he fired it like almost above D-Mac's head. He had to catch it pretty athletically, but overall, I hope Fozzie's happy with how his passing went. Bianchi, the flanker, had 22 out of 24 tackles, which is a huge shift. But, yeah, 73-0. I do think Uruguay will be a bit disappointed that they just kicked it dead and knocked it on and the line-out would go awry. Yeah, but sometimes, you know, the All Blacks can do that to you, and the All Blacks in the second half showed what they're about. We'll see who they're going to face in a quarterfinal with the coming games in the coming days. But, yeah, pretty good news for the All Blacks, basically barring those 2 prop injuries. We'll wait to see how they go. You guys let us know your thoughts on the game, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.